Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
It's the box seats here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. I'm Keith Grieve, sitting in for the illustrious Bob Sullivan, who hopefully will be around shortly for you all. And I am joined, as always, on the box seats here by Alex B. Smith from SportsMemo.com. Alex, how are you this fine evening?
Doing pretty good. We're in the middle of June. The NBA championships are done. Congratulations to the Cleveland Cavaliers for finally ending the long-suffering streak that has been Cleveland sports teams without a title. Ohio had their big celebration today. They said 1.3 million people were in Cleveland to celebrate the Cavaliers' win for the victory parade, and I think that's the most people that's ever been in Cleveland in a very, very long time. So, reason to celebrate out there in Ohio. And the Stanley Cup has also commenced, and congrats to the Pittsburgh Penguins for winning that. They had the NHL awards tonight with Patrick Kane being named most valuable player. And so now we're just kind of wrapping things up with the winter sports. All we got now is pretty much just baseball, and then blinking before you know it, it'll be the start of training camp in the NFL and fall practices for college football. So nice to have this little downtime and kind of rest a little bit before getting right into the thick of things with football pretty soon.
Oh, maybe you know, maybe you don't know, but what kind of odds would you have gotten if you had bet the Cavaliers to come back from 3-1?
I remember seeing the series prices somewhere within the plus 500 to plus 600 range at some books, and no team had ever come back from 3-1 in NBA Finals. It's rare to just find teams in any kind of 7-game format series to come back from 3-1, and the way that they did it too. I've never seen a championship series, be it in basketball, hockey, or baseball, where every game 1 through 7 was so such a dominant performance by one side or the other. Game 7 was by far the closest game, but to have two teams just battle back and forth and blow each other out in the series is just very bizarre. It's one thing to have series swing back and forth, but not in the grand scheme that we saw with with this finals. And it caused a lot of people to kind of raise eyebrows. We saw the tweets from Aisha Curry saying, maybe this league is rigged. And, we've always kind of joked around with that forever, saying, if the series goes 6 games, you can pretty much, expect it to go to a 7th game. But it was bizarre. I feel like I really thought after going into Game 5 that Golden State would be able to take care of business and kind of cement their legacy as with the 73 wins and being one of the best teams in NBA history. But we're always going to remember them now as being the team that blew a 3-1 lead and ended up losing in the finals. So it doesn't take anything away from them winning 73 games, but it's certainly going to be the asterisk, if you will, if we say, is this the best NBA team of all time?
It's weird in that every game except for Game 7 was double digits.
Yep.
Right? If I'm doing the math correctly, the closest game was Game 4, and Golden State won that by 11. But it was big blowouts otherwise, except for Game 7, Game 4, and Game 6 was 14-point differential. That's in my opinion, that's a blowout in the finals. I want these games with 7 points or less.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You look at the spreads. There wasn't a spread higher than 8 points. Looking at all the opening numbers. So the bookmakers never were able to. They couldn't adjust one way or the other. They just kind of really had to stick with their bare bones power ratings. And line games accordingly to just basic home court advantage. And obviously, you had changes where, for example, Draymond Green and his suspension in Game 6. But even then, that still wasn't enough of an adjustment made one way or another. So it was a tough series. Like I said, I stayed away from betting it in Game 6 and Game 7. And like I said, just this whole NBA postseason had been really tough to figure out from a point spread perspective, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine. I've said before when I sat in this seat, I'm not the most astute gambler, but especially you think about Golden State coming off the 73-win season, setting all of the, they beat the Bulls for the most wins in a single season and blah, blah, blah. But it means nothing in the end because what I noticed is that after Game 2, it's like LeBron got pissed.
Yep.
Pretty much. It was the... I don't know how old you are, Alex, but I'm 40, so I remember the old Incredible Hulk TV show, and it's Bill Bixby turned into Lou Ferrigno.
I've seen that.
Yeah, and LeBron just ran that team the way that pretty much. Now, I've been a LeBron critic. I won't call myself a hater, but it's not because I didn't. My criticism of him is not because I don't think he's a good player. I don't think he's the most talented player in the league. Is that I don't see him play to his strengths nearly enough.
Right.
And that's main strength being is that he's just more physically impressive than any other player in the league right now. So to see him finally put the ball on the floor, go to the rack, and other commentators have noticed that he found more confidence in his jump shot, and that's not inaccurate by any stretch of the imagination. But you saw him go to the hole a lot more and either draw a foul or get the bucket. He was doing far too much of getting into the paint and dishing the ball in games 1 and 2, in my opinion. But.
Yeah, and the thing is too is that LeBron. We talked about LeBron and his legacy, and coming back to Cleveland after already winning a couple titles in Miami, and the whole thing was, can he get the right people around him? And he had talent around him, the entire time. We've seen the ups and downs of Kevin Love, and finally Kyrie Irving was healthy this time around. But LeBron has to realize that there are moments where he has to be the guy to take control and carry the team and put the team on his back. And he knows he has that ability. That's obvious. But I feel like he tries so hard to be a team player. You look at the whole LeBron versus Kobe comparisons of the day, where Kobe's, more of the selfish player, give me the ball, let me take the last shot. And it seemed that would hinder him at times, not diversifying, the ball around and helping spread the offense around. Where LeBron, it was the opposite. It was the team was so, relying on him for so many years, those older Cleveland teams. And so he got used to, playing, a more selfish style, and then he was able to change that with Miami, having Bosh and Wade, and so he wanted to keep that and expand on that when he came back to this current team. And I liked what I saw from him in Game 7, and he's got to have those flashes more often, where he shouldn't be afraid to be the guy to step up and take control, because he's one of the best players in the game without question.
I think one of the nuttier images I've seen is the picture from the parade today that ESPN had on I think it was on their Twitter feed. I'm assuming it was on the website. The fans kind of shimmying up the crevices of a building to get up as high as they could to see as much of the parade as they could. It's just like, that's how bad this drought has been for Cleveland, that the fans are willing to take their lives into their hands just to be a part of the championship parade.
Yeah, like I said, I've seen some incredible photos and footage. I didn't watch it live this morning, but like I said, I saw a lot of photos online and on Instagram and videos and so forth. And it's incredible. Like I said, what the Cavaliers mean to not just Cleveland but the state of Ohio. It's such a big deal, and to have the hometown player who we'll be talking about forever as one of the all-time greatest players in NBA history. And for him to, come full circle with his career and bring this title home to, like I said, a city that had seen, from the Indians, reign in the 90s and falling short there to, losing the Browns and regaining the Browns and then the struggles they're going through. So it's, like I said, it's a big deal. And it is. It's, some people say that, we could take sports too seriously at times. But when you look at how, not just for a fan base and a sport, but the tourism and the service industry in Cleveland, took such a hit when LeBron first left. And so for all those businesses and different things that have, made a comeback as well. So it is bigger than just the game on the court. in this certain scenario, and it showed by how many people came out to show their love and support for that team.
Yeah, just looking at some of the numbers though from the series, LeBron played 292 minutes in this series. By comparison, Steph Curry played 246, Klay Thompson 247. And then the next Cavalier was Kyrie at 273. The game score, which is a Hollinger statistic. For the series, LeBron James was a 26.5. The leader on the Warriors was Draymond Green at 17.2. And he didn't play a game. Steph Curry played 7, only amassed a 13.1 game score. Just an absolute domination by LeBron. And I think he's put he should have anyway, put a lot of his critics to rest. But there'll still be the haters, I'm sure.
Yeah, and the interesting thing too is that, we heard going back into even deep in the last season, we heard people like Charles Barkley say, a team that lives and dies by the 3-point, shot and perimeter shooting for the majority, it's hard for them to win a title. They can't win a title. They proved that wrong, that they won a title, but it was their reluctance to try to score inside more often. When the outside shots weren't there for the Warriors, those were the games that they lost. And you got to kind of wonder, what will they? They got to change something going in the next year, because teams are now figuring out how to shut them down from outside, how to disrupt their shooting. They're not going to shoot 80% from 3 every night. So they've got to work in the offseason to kind of spread around their offense and work on their inside game more for those nights where Curry isn't shooting the 3 lights out, or Klay Thompson isn't shooting the 3 lights out. And so that that'll be interesting too. I think the old school kind of critics proved their point right in saying that a perimeter shooting team can't just completely dominate from outside for an entire year from season into a postseason.
So do you think it's fair to say that if the Cavaliers had been at full strength last year, the Warriors may not have won at all?
Sure. It would. I believe if they had been at full strength, it would have at least been a 6 or 7 game series. About as close as what we saw now. There's no question of that, because it's hard for any team to lose 2 of their top 3 scorers and win a 7 game series. That just doesn't. That rarely happens. So. I do believe that would have been a different turnout. I'm not to say that Cleveland would have won, but I do think it would have been a much different series with a healthy Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving the year before.
Yeah, that was what was great about Game 7, was that everyone did something. LeBron was LeBron, Kyrie hit the dagger, Kevin Love. His offense wasn't all that, but he was rebounding, and then he had that one stretch where he was defending Curry late in the fourth quarter. J.R. Smith hit big 3-pointers in the beginning of that third quarter to erase that 8-point deficit. So it was, you can't look at the stats and say, oh, wow, it was a 4-headed monster. No, it was everybody stepping up when they needed to kind of keep Golden State at bay.
But and even with all that said, it was LeBron to really kind of cap it off, that hard foul that he took at the end and had the 2 free throws. I actually thought it looked like he might have broken his wrist almost when he fell late in that fourth quarter when he hit the free throw to pretty much ice it.
Yeah, it was.
And I was out in a bar with a bunch of people watching the game, and I was just how fitting is this to add kind of to the drama where he gets fouled hard and he's got to hit one the free throws to ice Game 7, and those big players have those big moments. It's not necessarily Michael Jordan, shooting from the free throw line to nail, his 6th title. It wasn't as memorable of a moment, but I'll remember that, wow, it was LeBron who really shut everything down. That block, I think, would be probably the biggest thing when the Iguodala block off the glass, which is a move we've seen LeBron do time and time again.
He used to be famous for it. That used to be a signature defensive move.
Right. And so for him to pull that off in such a huge moment, and then, like I said, get the free throw to ice the game, I think, that just proves, like I said, it cements into his legacy. He's, one of the best stars in the game, and for him to bring the title home with those plays, it just, makes it that's much more special.
585-633-7487 is the call-in number if you're listening live. 585-633-7487 while we anxiously await the arrival of Mr. Sullivan. All right, so moving forward now, the NBA Finals, the season is in the book. Crown LeBron and the Cavs. Then he puts up that Instagram post, and ESPN spent all day debating it. I don't have a problem with him doing that. Do you?
No, not at all. I mean, in it, like I said, he's a very passionate guy and a fiery competitor, and I like seeing that from athletes. I like seeing guys just come out and say what they feel and be honest and admire their fans, but also address the people who try to pin you down and talk negatively of you, because you feed off of that negativity sometimes, and you want to prove the naysayers wrong. So I have no problems with whenever he does, the times he's done this time and time again before, come out and slam his critics, and I'm fine with it.
All right, and now welcome him to the show, kids. It's Mr. Sullivan himself. Bobo's back. Hi, Bob.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Sorry I'm a little late to the party here tonight. My apologies.
Did
no
you
worries,
win?
No worries.
So what are we in on right now here?
Well, we were just finishing up about the NBA Finals, and I asked just a passing comment on whether Alex approved of LeBron's Instagram, because ESPN spent all day debating it, so I was just wondering what his thought was.
I think LeBron, for how much he gets criticized and poked at and ripped, I think he earned a moment to go back at his critics, because there is no more scrutinized or criticized or polarizing athlete that is legitimately great than LeBron James. And, you can say what you want about Tim Tebow being polarizing, but LeBron James, there's bang for your buck behind him. And he, as far as LeBron goes, he has handled all the critics as well as you could. And for him to not, act like a jerk to the media, act like a jerk to everybody, it says a lot about the man himself, and he earned a moment to kind of poke fun back at his critics and poke fun at the Warriors a little bit. I felt like he earned that moment, and a lot of people hate him, but I don't like him, but I do respect him as a player, and I do respect what he has done in staying classy as far as he goes. So that's where I stand with LeBron.
Is there any serious criticism anyone can lob at LeBron James anymore?
I don't think so.
I don't either.
Yeah, I don't think not anymore. I think I don't think there's any more criticism you can throw his way. He's just consummate professional, and he's yes, he's 3-4 in the finals, but to get 2 semifinals is incredible in itself. 6 in a row by himself, and with James Jones, the guy is nothing short of amazing. And we have to, if we're going to criticize him as much as, if people are going to criticize him as much as they do when he doesn't do something right, you got to be ready to give him as much credit as possible when he does do something as amazing as coming back from 3-1 on the winningest team in NBA history to that point. So, I don't think we can. There's nothing else we can say. We can say to criticize him that is valid. And really, it's tough to even to that point. My complaint with him in the finals was he waited too long to get going, and I felt like this would have been this should have gone 7 if he had played the way he did last year early on. The Cavs might have won the series 4-2 or 4-1 or something like that, instead of trying to get Kyrie involved, waiting on Kevin Love. He nearly cost them the series with trying to get others involved. And then once he finally took over the series and had Kyrie be that assassin at the end, that's when they won this. That's how they won the series. Once he decided to, stop waiting around for those other guys. So that in itself is pretty amazing.
All right, so now moving forward, NBA draft talk, rather. It's been rumored and confirmed and reported that the Philadelphia 76ers intend to draft LSU forward Ben Simmons with the number 1 overall pick. What are your thoughts on that, and are there odds for, is it Ben Simmons and the field, or is there any kind of interesting bets on the first draft pick here?
Well, I saw prop one offshore book that had it's really pretty much between Ben Simmons and Brandon Ingram, and it's minus 900 if for Ben Simmons to be drafted first overall, plus 500 if he were to drop and go second. So it would be, like I said, I know I've already read a bunch of stuff saying that Brandon Ingram will be going second if he's around by the Lakers. So I'm pretty sure Simmons will be going number 1 to the Sixers, and then it gets kind of dicey with Boston at the number 3 pick because they've been rumored to possibly move that pick around. But should they keep it, I think they're going to stay kind of within the area and draft Chris Dunn, point guard out of Providence. So there's a prop between him and there was another player that I saw, Marquise Chris from Washington, forward. They're paired up together in a prop, the same offshore spot at minus $1.20. So that might be something I might look at. I think Chris Dunn, Celtics could use a point guard, and obviously having a guy who played so close by at Providence, I think that'll be a bigger sell for the fans. So I wouldn't be shocked to possibly see him stay and join Boston.
Is Isaiah Thomas a free agent?
No, he's not.
No? Okay.
No, he is not a free agent. I think he has 1 more year left on his contract.
So I don't understand why they'd be in the market for a point guard.
I think that, you'd want a point guard if you're the Celtics, because I don't think, yes, you need the ball in Isaiah's hands, but I feel like it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to have a steady guy, the steady point guard, in that mix as well. Isaiah Thomas, is a good shooter, a good scorer and everything, but he doesn't always make the best decisions, in my opinion. I don't think they need to go out and get a superstar point guard, but I do think they need to get a veteran guy, a veteran point guard that you can pair with Isaiah Thomas and at times go 2-point guard system with those two. In my opinion,
he's got almost a 2.5 to 1 assist to turnover ratio last year. If you're looking at trying to gauge him as a point guard, his player efficiency rating was over 21. So I don't know what more you want the guy to do. He is 5'9", so if you like a bigger guy.
Well, he was when they had the draft lottery, you had Mitch Kupchak, Brett Brown, and an NBA player and Isaiah Thomas standing there waiting for the envelopes to open up, and he was by far the shortest one there. That was a tad alarming. But I will say with Isaiah, his numbers are there, but I would prefer at times to have him play off the ball, in my opinion, because I think he can be helter-skelter at times, and I don't know. I prefer another guy that you can pair with. I don't think they need to go get a superstar point guard, but I do think they need, a veteran guy to go along with to complement him a little more.
Yeah, and add what Bob, add to what you were saying. That's why I say Chris Dunn would be the perfect fit. You look at him; he's got a really quick a step. He's a much bigger guy. He's 6'4", around 215, 220. So he's got good size for a point guard. And he's a guy who he dribbles well. He can create shots for other guys. He's not the best shooter himself, but he would be a guy to complement Thomas well. And they could kind of switch off. And, like I said, the NBA has changed so much where, positions aren't so defiant. Point guard, shooting guard, power forward, small forward these days. So to have both, you could have those two play together, at times, and would possibly work. He said, kind of create a little more space and give Thomas more of an offensive look, and then you've got the good ball handling and defensive skills of a player like Dunn.
So we're giving up on Marcus Smart if you're the Celtics.
I don't think he's.
I think he'll be a great six-man, personally.
Yeah, but again, that's what Thomas does too. You're gonna have. Again,
one of those
you're gonna have to pick. You're gonna have to pick between. You already have like 6 point guards there. You're gonna have to eventually say goodbye to somebody. Yeah. And I think, Marcus Smart, I would probably take Chris Dunn as far as, Smart's good defensively, but I would take Dunn, and then, there's 95 other point guards on the Boston roster that, you can pick between. I think Marcus Smart is pretty expendable on that roster, though.
Okay.
But I will also say this. I do have a question. Alex, have you seen any bets out there, and I'm sure they'll come out, or are there ever any bets on who the first All-Star will be out of a draft class? Do you ever see anything like that? I'm pretty new into the betting world, but I would be curious if there are ever bets like that post-draft in the NBA.
I've never seen that, but it's funny you mentioned that because I was looking at a couple of mock drafts today, and NBA Draft.net one I always go to and read. And like I said, there's no names on this list, this draft list, that really pop out at me as any potential big stars. Buddy Hield, decent shooter. I think he might have the most upside, in my opinion, from anybody that's in the current top 10 of this mock. But Ben Simmons, I think he might be a bit of a bust. It's hard to tell with him because his season last year at LSU, he put up big numbers, but LSU wasn't that great of a team, and they were relying so heavy on him. He'll be a better player in the NBA long term, but he won't play a major role like a number one overall draft pick, what you would expect. So I haven't seen that, but this would definitely be a draft where, it could be anybody, there's some decent names in the second round that could pop up and be bigger stars. Gary Payton Jr. is slated to go in the second round. I think he's got a lot of talent on the upside and could easily end up being a better player than some of the names that we've talked about. I think he'll be a better offensive player than someone like Chris Dunn. There's a lot of decent offensive talented players that are in this draft, but no one, I would say, a future All-Star or even a guy who's going to help a team get to a championship or break into the postseason quicker over the next couple of years.
I could see an Ingram. Like I wasn't a huge fan of him at Duke, but if he were a guy that if he stays in LA which is a big if, if they get tempted by a potential move out there, they're probably going to, Ingram will probably be a player to be moved. However, if he's a big score, if he comes out and averages, 15 points a game this year, and then in a couple of years is averaging, a little more than 20, there's a lot of all-star votes that come out of LA. And if they fall in love with him as just, my guess is he'll probably be a pretty good scorer in this league. But if he exceeds expectations from the Lakers and fans fall in love with him, I think he could get voted in at a certain point. But again, Simmons, I'm not sold on him being a superstar. I'm not sold on him being a complete bust. I think he winds up being, kind of a little bit better than Lamar Odom type. And he can do a lot of things, but because of his, at times I think he can get lazy. He can get disinterested in the game, and that's a dangerous thing, drafting a guy number one. But I think to get the same, he kind of looks like he has the same demeanor as Lamar Odom did. And I will also say, Field I like, Dunn I like, but yeah, there's not a lot of star power in this draft. I feel like there's a lot of good players, but nobody that's just going to completely blow the doors off of anybody, especially in year one.
I feel like I don't know. This is like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I tried to do like a live podcast broadcast of the NBA draft, and about like 4 picks in, it was the worst podcast you could ever imagine, because there's just a bunch of guys that there was all European guys that you don't really know that much about, and it's hard in this. Like I would never want to be an NBA GM because these guys are coming out so young, so underdeveloped, that if you're in the lottery, like 1 through 10, you're almost guaranteed to screw up at least one of those picks. You know what I mean? If you have it like back-to-back years.
Yeah.
And even, because I'm a Laker fan, Mitch Kupchak seemed to knock it out of the park with D'Angelo Russell until he decided to record Nick Young and all that, but that's another story for another time.
It's interesting. Oh, say what you guys do.
No, go ahead, Alex. I'm sorry.
No, what I was going to say is, in reference to what you're saying, how hard it would be to be an NBA GM, and you have this whole rule where guys can't come out of high school anymore. They got to have at least 1 year, either be it overseas or in college. And I thought that would open the door for the NBA to try and make their D League a true kind of minor league, like a AAA organization thing to groom players. Even if you had have a D League draft. Or expand the NBA draft to maybe a 3rd round, and kind of mold and create a true, D League system to get some of these guys groomed in. And because I feel like the college game won't suffer from it. We still see good college basketball with this 1 year, this one and done rule, but I think we'll see a lot more potential NBA talent reach a higher level and be better NBA players if they have that transitional kind of league year, that D League year, to really grow and get used to the pro game, get used to the travel, and not just be thrust right into the spot of they got to perform now because they're a top 10 guy because they're making this big money. They'll still have the big paychecks, but they need to put in some work and time in a league that's not as soft as college basketball, or a deeper concentrated pool of talent, but not quite the flash and pizzazz of the NBA right away.
My opinion, I agree with you on opening it up to a 3rd round. My idea was make there be a 3rd round of the NBA draft and allow kids, make it like college or make it like baseball. Unless you get drafted in the lottery, first 13 picks, if you get drafted in the lottery, you have to go, because that's almost like you have to go pro. That's a guarantee. You're getting a guaranteed contract for 3 years, and you're going to be given your opportunities. Now, mid to late 1st round, and then 2nd and 3rd round. If you're a college player and you don't get drafted where you want, or you think you can improve, you have the option to go back to college. You can go back to college, no harm, no foul. Whether you hire an agent or not, let them go back. What is it going to hurt? These college coaches are going to say, if they want to be honest with these kids and say, oh, well, it's about the kids. If it's really about the kids, then it shouldn't matter if they leave, if they say they're going to go pro and come back, and you say, well, that screws up our recruiting. Well, I'm sorry. That's kind of too bad. If it's really about the kids, then that shouldn't be a problem if they go test the waters and see how good they would actually do as far as being a drafted player. And if you're in the 2nd and 3rd round, you have the option to go to the D League and force all these NBA teams to open up a D League franchise in the city and actually invest true money in a D League team versus and having they have 4 players that they actually are under contract with the NBA team that they can bring up at any time, so that, and then the rest of the 8 on the team in the D League are kind of free agents for the free agent pool in the NBA. But I feel like there needs to be more of an investment in the D League. There needs to be a third round, and there needs to be there needs to be more of an appeal to not just let these kids, like, if there's a good player out of Illinois State or something like that, or a mid-major team, there's no benefit to him going and playing in the D League right now. The benefit to him in making $15,000 to $20,000 or whatever crappy money they have in the D League, the benefit is to be like Trajan Langdon and just go play in Russia, make as much money as you possibly can in Russia, and become a legend over there. And there's no reason for him to come back. Like, there's no reason for some of these guys. There's no motivation to come back to a league to be the 15th guy in the rotation when you're over in, Germany or Spain or whatever, and you're considered the best player in that league. I understand the mentality of, okay, I want to go play in the NBA, but there's no motivation for them to be the best player on a team in the D League because nobody cares. The teams in Spain, in Europe and Asia are better than D League teams. They pay their players well, and those players are beloved in those countries. So if you're the NBA, you got to make it appealing to play in the D League, and it's not right now. And it doesn't look like it ever will be because it's not really taken seriously.
Well, and that's the thing, but I mean, you have to start somewhere for people to take it seriously, and that's the thing. It's, you look at how big this new NBA TV deal is going to be. So there's money in the league. Let's not kid ourselves on that. If the NBA teams take hold of a D League team that's close to their area, so we've seen this with the Bulls have a team that's kind of closer in the Chicagoland area. You got the Sixers and the Knicks and a lot of the East Coast teams, the Celtics. They've all brought teams closer in within their area. So if you have every team pick a city that's close to their home base and create a league, even have it be split down, to two conferences, and Western Conference, Eastern Conference just play each other year round until the playoffs. Maybe even alternate the timing of it where the D League season, it kind of, is either condensed within the NBA season or have it overlap into, like a later format. And also have it be open to where, if it is a condensed season, where guys can get called up. So if, somebody who's in the Sixers D League team, had a good season, and he gets called up and plays some NBA games that, would be meaningless for any of the veterans, in late March and April when they're out of the playoffs. Have that, that's good for the team and the organization to see if they're ready to make that jump. Or, and also to give the players some motivation of, hey, like, I'm in the D League now, but by the end of the year, I might actually be in the NBA. And if it doesn't work out here, I've got NBA, time in the NBA where that way help me get a bigger deal in China or in Italy or Argentina or so forth. So if the NBA can play their cards right and do it, I think it'll be very interesting. It creates a lot of different opportunities. One of them being, as far as I'm concerned, I would love to have a chance to bet more games in a league that would be a little bit easier to follow potentially with a D League system. So that creates a lot of different opportunities. And I think it would just be interesting to see how these guys do in a situation that's not D1 high profile college basketball and not quite exactly the NBA. I think it would actually create some decent basketball, not better now than what the current D League is at.
Yeah, I mean, I find it interesting. The whole thing is interesting to me because I've watched games on TV with the D League where it's, Maine Red Claws, and they're in like a 4,000 seat gym, and it gets loud in there because it's 4,000 seats. But again, you wonder, how much do these, those players, they don't find that cool. But the players in the EuroLeague and whatnot, I think they find it cool when they're, playing in basically with a soccer crowd behind them, with vuvuzelas or whatever the hell they are. Mm-hmm. It gets annoying, but they get entertained, or they play a little bit more up for those. And the D-League, I like it, but there's only so much Ronaldo Balkman I can take in my life as far as watching him play on a regular basis in that league.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel.
All right, so is it fair to criticize Ben Simmons for his LSU team not doing more?
No.
I mean, because the way I look at it, basketball is the easiest sport for one player to take over. There's only
Sure.
5 guys on the court. You got a superstar. You should be able to do something with that. I'm not talking about a national championship, but LSU didn't even make the damn tourney.
Yeah.
Is it fair to criticize his ceiling, I guess? Is he really worth a number 1 overall pick?
I think that is it is the easiest sport for one player to make a difference. However, it is the easiest sport for a coach to, not be very good at his job either.
Yeah.
And I feel like Josh Jackson or whatever the hell his name was not a very good coach. And if you get a superstar in like that, Simmons' motivation at times was and his effort was lackluster at times. But once you start losing some games and you realize the players around you aren't very good, it's easy to lose motivation. And when you kind of figure out, like, okay, this coach is kind of a jackass. And also, Simmons had some off-the-court issues, too, as far as his work ethic in the classroom. But as far as I felt like, even when they were, he didn't really there was not really an offense around him. There was not really any plays that were called or anything like that. It was kind of a cluster on the floor when he was on the floor. And it's like, wouldn't you want to spread out the floor and try to get a couple shooters around him? Or don't you have one shooter on the bench or something like that you can bring in once in a while? And he just had a bad team around him and a horrible, horrible coach. And I think once he realized he had a bad team and he had a bad coach, I think he kind of checked out, which is that's going to be risky when he's going to the Sixers because I don't think Brett Brown is a terrible coach, but you can have a bad team around him. If Embiid's not healthy and Saric doesn't come over this year, he's going to be stuck on a bad team and he's going to check out again. I do think he's worthy of his talent and his skill is worthy of a number 1 overall pick, but his attitude and his effort at times is not. That's my feeling on it.
Well, and the thing too is, when you're on, like you said, a bad team, bad coaching, and you already know that you're eventually going to get a gigantic paycheck in, a few months, it's a little easy to just kind of say, well, to heck with this right now. I got, my eyes are on a bigger prize. And with that being said, maybe he's a little less, prone to checking out mentally with a team like the Sixers simply because he's getting paid and it will be, better players around him going to the Sixers than LSU. And, he's in a higher spot. And, and of course, like I said, looking at this whole Sixers trust the process BS. I think we can call it BS now at this point because what is the process of the? I can't explain it. It seems so crazy.
I will say this: now that Hinkie's out of there, I think that the Colangelos will get some veteran of substance that'll check some of these young guys when they need it.
Okay.
I will say that. So Hinkie's process, Hinkie could potentially win Executive of the Year in like 5 years if this thing all works out. But he's not going to be on the payroll as far as the Sixers go. But I will say, the trust the process thing has been stupid and everything. But I don't think that I think the Colangelos, they got some pieces there but I think they'll be smart enough to get a veteran or somebody in there that can check a Simmons or an Embiid when they're not working hard. But back to I'm sorry for interrupting, but that's
but that's what I'm saying. So, and that's the thing. That's, if someone, around him can kind of, if he can check him, get somebody to check him, and he can see, see what's going on as far as, where he is, in the situation with the team. I think we'll see his talent improve based on that. But I don't worry about that as much with him going into the NBA as, even though we saw that with, I think, like I said, I think it was purely situational. I don't think he's just a completely, lackadaisical player or a guy who's just really kind of wishy-washy as far as motivation goes.
I will say this: it is comparable to a football player or something like that, where you check out and you just don't want to get injured. You're going to be the number one overall pick. You're the or a top 5 pick, whatever. And the team's out of the race for anything, out of contention for anything. You just don't want to get injured and cost yourself that. Now, the biggest person that's cost is Jadeveon Clowney, because once he checked out at South Carolina, he's just turned into a complete. He's not a factor in the NFL, and he doesn't ever look like he will be. So that it is a dangerous thing when a 19, 20, or 21-year-old is shutting it down and worried about getting injured at 18, 19, 20. It's sad that it comes to that, and it is a dangerous game that some of these kids play as far as learning to shut it down and not play hard to avoid injury. It's
at the same time, you look at Jadeveon Clowney, and then you look at Marcus Lattimore, where this is a guy who's going to make a ton of money, and he wrecked his knee at same college at South Carolina. Things weren't ever the same. So it's so hard to, like you said, it's hard to we all get the idea behind it, but like you said, how does that translate once you're in that next level? Can you get that and bring that intensity back that made you a top player? Yeah, it's hard to quantify that.
Yeah.
All right, we got about 13 minutes left in the show. We haven't even talked about the NHL news of the day, and that is the expansion franchise in Vegas. So if you had a problem with hockey in Florida, what do you think about hockey in the desert?
Alex, I'll let you answer this. I think you're better suited for this one.
It's interesting because I remember being a kid and watching all this weird expansion of, Tampa Bay, San Jose, the Miami area with Florida and Nashville, Atlanta. And I thought the game was actually really going to expand. I was a firm believer, and even to this day, I'm still a firm believer with certain things that if you build it, they will come. Obviously, the NHL is a little bit harder to market of the 4 sports here in the United States, just simply because it's not exactly our game, as Americans go. And in the South, hockey just wasn't a thing 50 years ago, and now it's becoming bigger. You got colleges down there playing it. University of Kentucky sells out Rupp Arena, for their midnight games with a club team. You got Arizona State playing Division I hockey. So hockey works, in these, non-traditional markets. You look at, for example, we saw San Jose in the finals, Tampa Bay in the finals, the year before. Vegas, the residents of Las Vegas and in Nevada, they want a sports team to call their own. There's a lot of passionate sports fans there, and they root for the teams in LA and Arizona. The Raiders might be moving there potentially. I think hockey will work in Vegas for a couple of reasons. One, it's a team that Vegas can call their own professional group. Obviously, the tourism and travel, every visiting group, every team visiting, they're going to have fans coming in. There's going to be Chicago, Minnesota, Boston, Pittsburgh. Those fans are going to leave in the middle of winter and go see their team play 1 or 2 games in Vegas, and get the chance to go there and see a brand new team, but also to see their own team play in a new arena. And so it's a lot of excitement. I think it's going to last. And the way that the expansion draft is working this particular year, especially because there's only one team being brought in, you'll have a lot of talent right away with this club. It's not going to be the old expansion teams where we saw, the Ottawa Senators their first year in the league. They only won 10 games out of 84. You're not going to see that. This is a team that's going to compete right away. They may not make the postseason the first year. They probably won't win a championship, within 5 years. But they will be competitive, and I think that's going to make a big difference.
Does the NHL is the NHL like every other sport in banning gambling, like officially?
Well, here's the thing. So I've obviously been following this close and reading it. All of the sports book directors I talked to, I actually did a show last week with Matthew Holt, the vice president of CG Technologies. They run a handful of books out in Vegas, and they're all prepared to take action on all 31 teams and all the games. The Westgate in Las Vegas already has posted 100-1 odds for the Vegas team, which isn't going to be named just yet, to win the cup in the 2017-2018 season. They're already at 100-1 odds. And I think Stations Casinos have actually posted Las Vegas plus 150 as an underdog for their first ever game. So the books are ready to take it. We didn't hear anything from NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman saying that they have to file a request through the Nevada Gaming Commission to disallow either wagering on the
Oh, Alex, are you there? Bob, are you still there?
Nope. Yeah, I'm still here.
Alex Alex, you may have accidentally muted your line. Oh, and now he's gone away. So, Bob, if you could wave a magic wand and name the NHL franchise in Las Vegas, what would you call it? I know I'm catching you cold here, but
yeah, I feel like they're gonna go with something cliche, like the Aces or the Gamblers, and I would like to see the Las Vegas Peep Show. As the team name. I think that would be a good one, and have Holly Madison as the main attraction for the show. But I will say this, as far as the NHL goes in Vegas, I do think that this there's no better. I think all the other, obviously Vegas is going to be probably home to the Raiders here soon, but there's no better of the four major sports to take a risk. And if it works out, all these other sports will be like, okay, it works in Vegas, now we can go do it. And the other thing is there's conventions every week in Vegas. And yeah, there's a Chicago-based company that wants to have a convention there, New York, whatever. They're going to make sure that they're in Vegas if the Blackhawks are there or the Rangers are there or whoever. So it's a perfect destination city for Vegas or for the NHL, and I think definitely in the first couple of years it's going to be a hot ticket to get, whether they're good or bad. And who knows how long it lasts, but I think it's going to be something that's good for Vegas and good for sports to open up more avenues for gambling.
So, Alex, what would you name the Vegas team if you could wave a magic wand and just make it happen?
My personal vote would be to name them the Las Vegas Thunder, and there's history behind that. There was the old International Hockey League, which was around from the 40s all the way to 2001, where the league basically folded because they overexpanded between the 90s. But they had a team in Las Vegas. They played the Thomas and Mack Center, and they had really cool uniforms. They wore black, white, and teal, which is a odd color that we hadn't seen until the Sharks came into the league right after that, right around that same time. But I think that was a really cool name, and I think the older locals can identify with that. That was a team that drew very well in the first 4 or 5 years, and they made it all the way to a a couple of conference finals during the 6 years that they existed. So that's the vote that I give it for. I know we've heard Black Knights be thrown around a lot, but I'm hearing recently from some people that won't be the team name. That was the lead runner because the owner, Bill Foley, the West Point grad, so he named the group that owns the team Black Knight Sports and Entertainment. But I'm hearing now that probably won't be the name. Las Vegas Aces was another one that was thrown out that I like a lot. But I hope they would. I'd like for them to go with the Thunder, but I think Aces might be the lead name that would obviously draw for a lot of great marketing and advertising and branding. So.
Well, they can't go with Kings now, can they? Sorry, hold on.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna do that. And I think that's the other thing with Black Knights is so close to having. That whole kind of image is so close with the Kings and already being a Kings kind of fan base, built in there. I think that's a little too similar. So I think they should go in a completely different route.
Bob's suggestion was the Las Vegas Peep Show.
yeah, I've heard a lot of different ideas. The Las Vegas Neon or the Las Vegas Lights, the Blackjacks. Like there's been 200 different names, and the lists are endless, obviously, because if you think of all the different things that go on in Vegas and so forth. So,
yeah. Well, how about the Las Vegas? It's legal here.
That'd be a good one. That'd be a good T-shirt slogan, actually.
Yeah.
the Las Vegas Hangovers.
Yeah, that'd be a. I mean, there's a number of things you can go. I've heard the Las Vegas Hookers was another one. I thought that was kind of funny, and you have a lady of the night with a hockey stick kind of pulling a guy in or something like that. But like I said, it's just it's great.
I could see the Aces.
How about the Las Vegas Pac-Man Jones?
Jesus.
That might not be something not everybody might get on board with that one. But
that might be a little tough to sell.
I don't think the NBA would want the Vegas. I think that'll turn the NBA off to the whole idea of Las Vegas too.
Their sweaters just consist of like dollar bills, like they're falling to the ground.
Yeah.
How about the Las Vegas Dealers? I could see that.
That'd be interesting. That would be interesting. I saw a thing where one of the jersey concepts for the Aces would be on the back that the number crest would actually look like a casino chip, and I thought that'd be a really cool kind of look. So,
couple different options. All right, we're at the 2 minutes to go. Any parting shots? Where can we find you?
Well, you want to go, Bob? Go first.
Yeah, I'll go first. You can find me on Twitter at Bob Sullivan Show. You can listen to my show Sunday night, Bob Sullivan Show, here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. And I don't think I'll have a show this weekend. Kind of busy with baseball, but should be back the following weekend. And that's about it for me for right now.
All right, Alex, where can we find you?
I haven't really been on Twitter a lot lately. I've been enjoying vacation over the last 2 weeks, and so I'll be getting back to Twitter within the next week and a half. Starting to get ready for college football stuff. My Phil Steele catalog is in the mail, so I'll be head deep into that for a while. You can find me on Twitter at AXSmithSports. SportsMemo.com. I'll have some college football previews up there. I know we'll be starting writing and working on those over the next couple of weeks coming up. And you can get my plays, get my early bird packages. Those will be up pretty soon at AXSmithSports.com. You can get the full year packages for a tremendously low rate. So check that out. Those will be up, by the end of the month after the 4th of July and after the 4th of July holiday.
All right, and for Bob Sullivan and Alex B. Smith, I'm Keith Green from 87sportsfans.com. Have yourself a great week, and may the odds be forever in your favor.